Hyperbola practice problems. Here are our givens. We have the center point at -2, 1, the focus at -2, 6, the vertex at -2, 4. So the first thing I'm going to do is graph all my given information because we need to be able to have some orientation of what this is going to look like. We want to know if it's horizontal or vertical, and I can see that all my H's are the same. It looks like my K's are changing, so it looks like we have a vertical transverse axis. So back 2, up 1, back 2, and that is the center, so that's HK. So I'm going to go ahead and write that in right there. HK is -2, 1. My focus is at -2, 6, back 2, up 6. So that is a focus. And then a vertex, back 2, up 4. So let's think about what this means. So if this is my center point and this is my vertex, 1, 2, 3, my A value is 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My C value is 5. Because A is the distance from the center to a vertex, just like it is in the ellipse. It's the same in the hyperbola. And C is the distance from the center to a focus. So let's put in our other vertex and our other focus. So let's go down. 1, 2, 3. There's a vertex. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's another focus. So basically I've got the critical points plotted on my transverse axis. Remember the transverse axis, and actually I'll do that in yellow. That is what passes through our vertices and foci for the hyperbola. Remember, all of our asymptotes and axes need to be dashed lines because they are auxiliary lines to the graph. Okay, so let's use this information. So if A is 3, and C is 5, and the relationship of A, B, and C in the hyperbola is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So A squared is, of course, 9, C squared is 25. Of course, that makes B equal to 4, and B squared is 16. 25 minus 9 is 16. The square root of 16 is 4. So if we know that this has a vertical transverse axis, then we can start using this information to, actually, let's go ahead and do this first bullet point, the standard form, because we know A squared, we know B squared, we know H, and we know K, so we can write the standard form of the equation. We'll get to the asymptotes next. So vertical transverse axis, which means that Y has to come first. Y should be positive. So Y minus 1 squared over A squared, which is 9. Remember, in the hyperbola, A is not necessarily the biggest. It's just the part that needs to be positive. This is a hyperbola, so it's minus, and then x plus h, or x minus -2, so x plus 2 squared over b squared, which is 16, equals 1. So there is the first part of our answer, finding the standard form of the equation of hyperbola. Now let's find the equations of the asymptotes, and then we'll graph the rest of it. So to graph and find the asymptotes in its vertical transverse axis, we need to know that the formula for finding the asymptotes is going to be y minus k, vertical, so plus or minus a over b times x minus h. So this is our point slope form that's going to help us find those asymptotes. So let's plug in our givens. So y minus k equals plus or minus a over b, so 3 over 4, times x minus -2. So that is the general form of our asymptotes. Let's go all the way and let's find both of them specifically. So first, let's distribute a positive 3/4. So y minus 1 equals positive 3/4 x, and then 3/4 of 2 is 6/4, which is the same as 3/2. Add 1 to both sides. Y equals positive 3/4 x, and yes, I'm just putting the positive there just to remind myself that I'm dealing with the positive form of the slope. So then we've got 3/2 plus 1 as the 1 comes over, so 3/2 plus 2/2 is 5/2. So there's the first equation of the first asymptote with the positive slope. Now let's do it again with a negative slope. So y minus 1 equals negative 3/4 x. Negative 3/4 of 2 is negative 6/4, which is negative 3/2. So add 1 to both sides. We get y equals negative 3/4 x. So negative 3/2 plus 2/2, that's negative 1/2. There is the second asymptote. Okay, so now let's graph it. So let's use our slope. If our slope is 3/4, so from the center point, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. So basically, when you use the slope, that allows you to form the box that you might read about. I just use these points to fill in my asymptotes. Remember, asymptotes are auxiliary. They're not solid. They're broken. And I already have my vertices and foci on here, so I can now draw in my branches. There's the top one, and there's the bottom one. That's my hyperbola, given a center at negative 2, 1, a focus at negative 2, 6, a vertex at negative 2, 4. Next type of problem, new givens. We're given both vertices, and we're also, this time, given the standard form of the asymptotes. Remember, the asymptotes give us a lot of information. We know the equation of the asymptotes. We know the center point, of course, and of course we can find the center point just by finding the midpoint of the two given vertices. But we've also got this slope here. So let's first plot these 2 points. So back 1 up 8. And back 1 down 4. And of course the center point, the midpoint in between those 2 points is going to be at negative 1, 2. So let's go ahead and start writing down some of the givens. All right, so we've used both of those pieces of given information, and we've used the h and k. We're going to use that slope next. But the first thing I want you to notice is that, again, we have a vertical transverse axis. In the first video I did, we had a horizontal transverse axis. That's why I've chosen both of these to be vertical transverse axis. So if we have a vertical transverse axis, that means that the slope of the asymptotes, which is 6 over 7, is A over B. That's A over B. So if A is 6, then A squared is 36. If B is 7, B squared is 49. And in the hyperbola, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Let's utilize that relationship and find C. So A squared plus B squared, 36 plus 49. C squared is 85. Therefore, C is root 85, which is approximately 9 and some change. So what does that mean? We're going to use that C value and plot our foci on our graph. So from the center point, we're going to go up root 85 and down root 85. So root 85 is just a little bigger than 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and some change. Almost off my handy dandy graph paper. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and some change. And by the way, if you want some fantastic graph paper like this, you can download it from our class's My CCA page. That I put a link in the download section. Okay, so we know a squared, we know b squared, we know hk. Hk was negative 1, 2. We actually have enough information to find the equation in standard form. So we can go ahead and answer that first bullet point. This is vertical, so once again, y needs to come first. So y minus 2 squared over a squared, which is 36, minus x plus 1 squared over b squared, which is 49, equals 1. So that's the first answer that we were seeking. And let's go ahead and graph this. So let's graph it using our equation for asymptotes. So we have a slope of 6/7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to draw in my asymptotes. I think I'll use a handy dandy straight edge this time since these are spread apart a good distance. Okay. There's the first one. Once again, they're auxiliary, so be sure they're dashed or broken since they are technically not part of the graph. All right. So there's my asymptotes. I've got my vertex. Notice that the farther that the focus gets away from a vertex, the fatter those branches are, the fatter they open up. If the vertex and the focus are close together, then those branches are going to squeeze together and be much tighter. So we've graphed. Let's give the location of the vertices and the foci. So we've got vertices at, and once again, the h value, it's not going to change. So it's going to be -1, and then it's going to be 2 plus or minus the a value, which is 6. So that means our vertices are -1, and then 2 plus 6 is 8, and then -1, 2 minus 6 is -4. There's our vertices, and our foci, same thing. The -1 is not going to change. So -1, and then it's going to be 2 plus or minus square root 85. And we can just leave it just like that because the square root of 85 is not going to simplify because it doesn't have any perfect square factors. So we've answered all the questions. Yes, we were given the vertices, and we were given, the vertices. Maybe I should have written center point. Already got that, oh well. And then we've got standard form, did that, foci, graph, we're done.